Hello, everyone. Welcome for today's session about maximizing the email security whilst balancing the economic pressures we're all facing at the moment. I think we're all complete. So we have a couple of guest speakers here. First of all, I want to welcome Jeremy Voisin. Jeremy is the CISO from DFI Services, and also recently the Cyber Defense Director from Cheops Technology. Cheops Technology owns DFI, who is based in Switzerland in Geneva. Welcome, Jeremy.
Welcome, Juergen.
A little bit to DFI. DFI, as I said, is based in Geneva. DFI is an MSSP partner of Cofense for a number of years, and DFI is sort of focusing on overall IT services with a strong focus on IT security. We also have Alan with us. Alan is our principal sales engineer at Cofense for a long time, and he will talk a little bit about the phishing challenge we are facing in general. So hello, Alan. Nice to be with you today.
Good morning, good afternoon. Pleasure to be here.
So a little bit before we start talking about phishing and the challenges we're facing, I want to give a little bit of an overview about Cofense. We've been an innovator in email security for a long time. Cofense was founded in 2011, but our technology was actually deployed earlier than that in 2008, when with PhishMe, our phishing simulation solution, we were the first vendor to introduce phishing simulation as part of an awareness, cyber security awareness concept. And we're also the first one who developed a reporting button, a mechanism basically for the employees to report an email which they think might be malicious, which bypassed the security control and ended in the inbox of the users. And this is a very important function. We will talk a little bit more about it. Furthermore, we're the first one who developed a custom workbench to help security teams to analyze these reported emails in a very efficient and fast way. So cut through the noise and determine what's actually bad and what's maybe a legitimate email or just spam. So when we get asked where Cofense sits, we are complementing existing technology, existing security stack, and the existing secure email gateway. We're not replacing anything. We know there is a layer missing, and that's where Cofense sits. So maybe I hand over to Alan, and you can talk a little bit about the phishing challenges we're facing today.
Yeah, I'd like to introduce you at a high level to the phishing threat landscape as we see it today. And we see this as a fairly universal problem, is that threat actors are constantly innovating to get their emails into users' inboxes. They exploit the weaknesses of their email security solutions, and they exploit our dependencies on cloud platforms and other business services and applications that make it virtually impossible to stop these emails getting through. And we see a malicious email is reported to us that bypassed a traditional email security solution every 2 minutes. It's a constant problem. And of course, the other problem is that once those emails have landed in a user's inbox, somebody somewhere will click. There's never going to be a zero click rate. And every organization has this problem. And part of that is because traditional email security systems can't keep up with the pace of change and the way that the threat actors innovate. Even if the phishing campaign is not particularly sophisticated, it's merely enough in most cases just to keep changing the links within the emails. So email gateway solutions like from Microsoft and Proofpoint, Cisco and the like are quite effective at stopping malicious attachments. But that's kind of yesterday's problem. If we were speaking 3 or 4 years ago, the majority of malicious emails would contain a malicious attachment. That is no longer the case. email security gateways have become better at blocking them, and so the threat actors will change their tactics when the current tactic no longer works. You just do something different, and there's been a big shift away from malicious attachments towards malicious links, and gateway solutions are just not as effective at stopping them. So 60% on average of the threats that we know about at Cofense on average make it through to the user's inbox. So it's a constant problem, and when the technology fails, all you've got left is your end users to tell you about them. If we break those threats down into the different types of campaigns that organized threat actors are utilizing, it's overwhelmingly credential phishing. Whereas you can see the malware, those malicious attachments make up about 3% of the global malicious emails. There's also business email compromise, which is where you can think of it as exec spoofing or imposter emails, where a threat actor is pretending to be a user or an executive of a company. The email itself doesn't contain any payload. There are no malicious attachments or URLs within it. And you can see there's also this large box of threat unavailable. And this is a reflection of the tactics that threat actors are using. They can turn over this infrastructure so fast that by the time we get to see the email, we can't determine whether it was a credential phishing attack or malware, because the site is no longer live. And also they are using more sophisticated tactics to highlight and identify the target audience more carefully based on your system settings, your IP address, and so forth. But the chances are the majority of those are also credential phishing. So you could quite reasonably say that 7 to 8 out of 10 of malicious emails are credential phishing. And if we look at that from a technology standpoint, those traditional email security gateways, SEGs, it's pretty consistent across the board that none of them are doing a particularly great job at stopping credential phishing attacks with those malicious URLs in there or business email compromise. So no vendor has really managed to solve this problem. And so if we think about, well, if these are the two challenges we have about bad emails will always make it through to the inbox and somebody's going to click, well, what do we need to do as an organization to protect ourselves against that? And first and foremost, we need to get visibility of the threats that your email security layers missed. And having done that, we need to respond and assess those emails quickly and neutralize those threats as fast as possible. Time is absolutely your enemy here. We need to do this as quickly as possible. And so, but Juergen mentioned the reporting plugin for email clients. That is the way that you can get visibility by educating your users to report suspicious emails. Give them a simple process. You just have to click a button and it gets sent off to a security analyst to review it. But resilience against phishing attacks takes more than a well-established reporting culture. If you think about the size of your organization, in a well-educated organization, we see approximately 20% of employees will report an email. So you can judge, your reporting rate compared to your size of your business and think, well, are we doing well? Are we, have we got some way to go? Is our reporting culture well established? But the challenge is that even with a well-educated workforce, the majority of emails that people report will not be a threat. The numbers will vary from one organization to another, anywhere from 75, 76%, all the way up to 95% of emails could be, spam and marketing and so forth. And so dealing with that noise, that all of that non-malicious emails kind of gets in the way and delays the identification of the often small minority of malicious emails. It represents a huge time waste for security analysts to be reviewing spam and marketing emails and legitimate business emails. And this is why we developed the triage solution, because if you introduce a reporting plugin and you educate users to report suspicious emails, well, it's no surprise that the volume of emails that gets reported does go up dramatically, and it becomes an overwhelming challenge to keep on top of that mailbox and deal with it in an effective and timely manner. And that's where triage can come in, and where your service provider can come in to relieve you of that burden if you don't have the resources to do it yourself, because most security operations teams have too many jobs and too few people to do them all well. And this is somewhere where you can give that to a partner. And so with that, I'm going to hand over to Jeremy, who's going to talk about it from his perspective.
Thank you, Alain. Hello, everyone. Among the various challenges faced by MSSPs and organizations are the increase in advanced phishing attacks, like Alain explained, the increase in the IT ecosystem and therefore the exposure to threats, the decline in resources and budgets, and of course the growing increase in stress and cyber fatigue. Fortunately, Cofense empowers cyber teams with the tools to reduce the impact of these challenges. Cofense Triage, for example, enables organizations to be more effective and efficient in dealing with cyber threats by prioritizing what is suspicious over what is not. Remember that 76% of reported emails are not malicious. Improve analyst efficiency with automated analysis. Improve interactions between cyber analysts and end users. And of course, by providing all the keys to automate investigations and incident response. Here is a quick and simple example of one of the different SOAR playbooks we have internally to respond to any kind of threat identified. The Cofense Triage solutions allows an analyst to categorize the different indicators. It can be, is this sender malicious? Is this specific link malicious, or the attachment suspect? Once categorized as malicious or not, it's possible to automate the blocking of indicators and the threat hunting process via a kind of SOAR solutions, or more simply, a Python or PowerShell script. The openness of the APIs in Cofense Triage products allows us to have a complete follow-up around the solutions and ensure that the blocking of indicators, the search in the past process, the threat hunting investigations followed an approved process. That is very important on our side. In the next few slides, I will present an incident case we have dealt with in our MSSP Security Operations Center. While starting his computer in the morning, a user noticed a strange email which he decided to submit for analysis to the Security Operations Center. The email is sent to the Cofense Triage solutions with a single click, and this specific email is deleted from the user's mailbox. Then begins an automatic analysis of the reporting email by the solutions, by Cofense Triage, which will apply different set of rules on the emails, rules on the headers, on the body content, on the attachments, on the link, to analyze the IOCs. Cofense Triage then generates a notifications into our SIEM, which decides to trigger an alert. Once the alert is triggered, an analyst then connects to the SIEM and to the Cofense Triage platforms to carry out the investigations. The investigations is initially based on the automatic investigation performed by Triage with the indicators that have been highlighted based on Yara rules and things like this. But the analyst will also perform a static and dynamic analysis of the links, of the document, etc. It will decide what kind of threat is it. In this particular case, this analysis allowed us to identify a malware from the Quackbot family with a brand new technique and procedure called TTP. TTP is how the malware works internally, how is it structured. And this specific TTP was not yet published. It was a new TTP over a one-node document. So it was a malicious link but by the secure email gateways. This particular link redirects to the download of a one-node document, and this one-node document was a malicious one and related to crackbot attacks. This particular email is confirmed to be an advanced threat by the analyst. Once the email is categorized as a threat, start the incident response procedure with automations to block the threat. All the indicators, the malicious indicators, are blocked on the IT and the OT perimeters. Then, of course, once you have contained the threat, you begin this threat hunting process. Indeed, blocking the indicators is very good, but making sure that these indicators have not been observed in the past is very important. Start identifying people who have received a similar email by analyzing the anti-spam logs, but also by performing a search in the Cofense vision solutions. The search for the various indicators in the past is then done by the SIEM or any kind of EDR, XDR solutions. All of the affected people are automatically isolated from the network. And of course, at the end of the incident, we sent a detailed report to the customer with all the actions that have been performed, what are the impact of these attacks, and a few recommendations of what can be improved. But like Alan said, most of the time, the improvement is not a technical improvement because all secure email gateways have a weakness. It's more improvement on the users. And of course, the entire incident response has been reviewed by a level 3 engineers to validate that the procedures are working well and if there is any kind of improvement in our internal processes. And of course, the various indicators, the IOCs, the TTPs, etc., are then shared with the community. What was very interesting in this particular incident is that we were able to identify and respond to an advanced threat that bypassed the secure email gateway in less than 30 minutes. The automations and threat hunting processes identified 10 users already compromised in the company by this specific threat without any detection from the EDR console or from the proxy solutions. A single reported emails helped us to identify a new TTP of Quadbot. And of course, as an MSSP, we have multiple customers. And by the enrichment of our threat intelligence, we identified 5 other customers compromised with the same variant of Quadbot. And of course, with the exchange of indicators to the community, we hope to have helped other companies to respond to this particular threat and help create a safer place on the internet. I will to Juergen now. And of course, if you have any questions, there is a Q&A sessions at the end.
Fantastic, Jeremy. Thank you very much for sharing that, how you use the Cofense tools as part of your security and SOC services you provide to your customers. It's great to hear. Maybe we wanted to summarize what we heard in the case study, especially from Jeremy and also what Alan talked about. I think the summary of that for an effective email security strategy is that we need the employees to be a part of it. We heard from Alan that technology alone will not ever stop phishing emails reach the inbox of the users. So the awareness, the reporting culture is a big part of the solution of the email phishing problem. Outsourcing with the right partner like DFI services, I think back to the topic, can help us in these challenging economic times because there is not only dedicated resources, skilled resources available at outsourcing partners, but also the tools which helps remediate these attacks quickly. Jeremy spoke about this case where we were able to block this attack in 30 minutes. We had some discussion before, sometimes it was as quickly as 8 minutes. So this network effect and the skills which an outsourced partner can provide is phenomenal. And that does help in-house teams to focus on other priorities, because answering and analyzing reported emails can take a lot of valuable resources away from other tasks. Jeremy touched also a little bit on this crowdsourced intelligence. I think that's what the MSSP partner, DFI in this case, brings to the table, but also what the Cofense solution enriches. So every triage, the rules which triggers the auto-quarantine task, that's all by this unique crowdsourced intelligence. Cofense and the partner have everything which lands in the inbox their own. And it's important, I think, when you maybe make a decision, keep it in-house, use an outsourced partner, sort of keep the visibility, right? What is the outsourced partner doing? What SLAs are they confirming to? And keep control of what's happening in my organization. And with some of these tools, and DFI, I know they will do it, they will provide this visibility to the customers so they know exactly what's happening. So that's a summary from us. I think we're good in time. I'm asking Heather, are there any questions been submitted to us?
So we've got one. Can you hear me okay?
We can, Heather. Yep.
Brilliant. So we've got one that says, how does this offering differ from an email gateway?
Okay,
that one.
Okay, thanks, Alan.
So Cofense solutions are not a replacement for your email gateway. We don't offer email gateway solutions. The Cofense technology is designed to supplement what your gateway is doing. Your gateway is blocking a lot of spam, for example, and we wouldn't want all that to land in users' inboxes. And of course, it will be blocking a certain amount of bad. All of the Cofense solutions start at the inbox. And by starting at the inbox, we're able to derive intelligence about all the threats that bypassed your email gateways and landed in the inbox. So we are able to give you the best intelligence about the threats that actually landed in your inbox. So we can help you catch what they missed. Our solutions are really sort of human-centric in their process, because when the email gateway and other email security solutions you have, which are all wholly automated, when they fail, all you've got left now is your users. And so we're putting the humans back into the process, but of course doing that in an efficient and effective manner. I hope that answered your question.
Brilliant, thank you. Next one is, we are increasingly under pressure to consolidate technology and reduce budgets. Would this not add to it?
Maybe well, it's a fair point. Oh, sorry, Alan.
Sorry, my bad. It's a fair point. We're all under pressure to do things, do more with less. But as we've sort of talked about throughout this session, technology alone is not going to solve this problem. The automated solutions that you have in place today are really not that effective against phishing. Otherwise, this wouldn't be a problem. If you can layer multiple automated solutions together, but that won't necessarily increase your resilience to a phishing attack, because what we commonly see is that an email security solution that is vulnerable to one particular attack, the next email security solution will also be vulnerable to the same tactic. So those emails typically just make your way through to the inbox. So the only way you're going to get an effective defense against phishing is to rely on your users to catch what those technologies miss. And so that's why developing that culture of reporting is so important. But if you develop that culture of reporting and there's a lot of emails being reported, we hear time and time again from already overburdened security operations teams that this is just too much. It takes too long, it's too onerous, there's too much time wasting, and everybody hates being the person on the end of that abuse mailbox. And so because we are human-centric, we can react to a single suspicious email, whereas an automated solution has to pass some unknown threshold of volume or something else before it can react. So it's always catching up.
Brilliant. Another one is, what kind of SLA can we expect on analyzing a reported email?
Well, maybe that's a good question for Jeremy as our service provider. If you may want to take that.
Yeah, on our side, we have an SLA to give a feedback to the users and to classify the reported emails in 4 hours. This is the SLA in the contract, but most of the time, the average response time is between 10 or 20 minutes. But in the contract, it's 4 hours so far.
Brilliant. Which is obviously much quicker than if you were relying solely on your internal teams when they're under day-to-day pressures as well. Right, we've got another one here. Our organization uses Microsoft SafeLinks. How is this different?
So Microsoft SafeLinks, for those who aren't familiar with it, is a form of URL rewriting. What that means is that emails, as they come in to your mailboxes, if they contain URLs, the email gateway will replace those URLs with its own, so that if you interact with those links, having the email having arrived in your mailbox, you are directed or sort of through the email gateway out to the internet. That enables the gateway to have a second chance at inspecting that email, and it also gives you a sandboxed browsing session, which offers some protection against certain types of attacks. SafeLinks is just one example. There are various other examples. Every email gateway vendor has their own equivalent. It all sounds great, but it does come with some fairly significant limitations. First of all, if you think about the threat landscape, most of those malicious emails we see today are credential harvesting attacks. And whether you are browsing in a safe, sandboxed session, if you gave up your credentials, you gave them up. You still lost your data. The sandboxed environment does not protect you against that. The other most significant challenge is the fact that they need time to work. Microsoft and Proofpoint and all these other vendors really only have one source of threat intel on phishing. And so if they knew that email was bad before, upon arrival, they wouldn't have let it through to your mailbox. The fact that they let it through means that they didn't know it was bad. So now they're playing catch up to hope that later on when you interact with that email that they can catch that it's bad. But that's quite unlikely in most cases. If you're the type of person who tends to look at these emails as they come in, there's zero time for an email gateway to effectively change its mind. The other challenge is really more of a human one, is that by rewriting those URLs and putting a wrapper around them, it makes it much harder for the end user who's received that email to actually look at, well, what is that URL and where is it taking me? And this is often a common thing that we ask users to do in a security awareness program, is to hover over the links and see where they're taking you before you click on them. When you wrap them in a complicated string, it's much harder for users to do that. So there's no harm in having safe links or other URL rewriters in place, but be mindful of just the limited effect that they will have against protecting you against phishing. We don't rely on those systems to do it because we are human centric.
Another point on my side regarding safe links from Proofpoint or from Microsoft is, like Alan said, if it don't know at the specific time it's malicious, it will let you go through the link. But then after a review, internally we say, oh, this specific user clicked a malicious link a few hours ago. This is where you need a security operations center to track this kind of logs from secure email gateway to say, okay, I am aware through the safe link that, or safe attachments, that a user opened a link that is known now to be malicious. So I need to investigate this specific link. So we can't only rely on this specific thing, but we have to take in charge of all things of what to do with the information provided by the click.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, thank you.
I've got just 2 more questions. Our organization uses Proofpoint threat response auto pull. How is this different?
I think that it's a similar story to what I was just discussing about safe links. It's the same sort of challenge that these email security vendors all have, which is there's a recognition that the gateway alone is not going to stop all of the threats. And Proofpoint and Microsoft are, recognize that. So they've developed additional technologies over the years to do what we call post gateway inspection. So rather like the safe links, they're hoping that they are able to detect that email as malicious after they've delivered it to the inbox. But it's the same sort of challenge, is they've only got one source of threat intel. So if they didn't stop it on the way in, how can we reasonably expect them to stop it on the way out? It's a bit like people marking their own homework. It's better to have a layered defense that uses entirely different source of data and approaches, because that increases your protection against it. As Jeremy said, earlier, they can be useful from the point of view of, once you know it is bad, then you've got a ready source of information to help you understand who may have interacted with it. But it doesn't necessarily help you stop the bad coming in. Do you want anything to that, Jeremy?
Yeah, totally agree. But
perfect.
No, it's the same. I mean, the right thing you point out is that you need to have a layered security to add different kind of protections, but not from the same vendor. If the email is sent to your mailbox, maybe you should have another solutions to look at the mailbox, because if you use the same threat intelligence, the email should have been blocked before. So I totally agree with you.
Brilliant. And final question, you showed SEGs in a comparison chart. Which SEG do you think is the most effective?
Oh, there's a leading question. As we saw in the beginning of the presentation, email gateways are reasonably effective against blocking malicious attachments, and that's around the sort of 98% effectiveness overall. So we'll say green tick for effectiveness against attachments, but it is yesterday's problem. The other stat I put on that slide was the average of threats that we know about that Microsoft, Proofpoint, Cisco, Mimecast, etc. let through, and that was about 60%. Of course, within those vendors, there was quite a range. Perhaps surprisingly, the range was quite wide, actually. From only 5% effectiveness to about 60% effectiveness against our threat intel, and actually, the best and the worst was the same vendor, i.e. Microsoft. So Microsoft Advanced Threat Protection that you get with the E5 was overall the most effective. It was better, slightly better than Proofpoint and Cisco. It wasn't hugely better, but the standout, in the worst way, was Microsoft Exchange Online Protection, their basic level of protection. That let through 95% of the threats that we know about. So it really is not an effective solution for phishing today.
Brilliant.
Okay.
I suppose, does anyone have anything else they'd like to add?
No, from my end, I just wanted to say a big thank you to Jeremy and Alan for sharing your expertise today. And thanks for your time. And if you have any other questions, I think you can reach out directly to DFI or to Cofense, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. So nothing else from
brilliant.
us.
And I will be following up with an on-demand recording of this and some useful links as well, so to some extra content we've got. We've obviously talked a lot in this call around that awareness side of things. So we've actually got a useful best practices asset that Alain helped to create that I will share after this as well as everyone's contact details. Like you say, Juergen, if anyone's got any questions, they can talk to the team directly. Brilliant. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.